What's going on, everyone? My name is Lucas, and today I wanted to talk about the João Félix transfer to Atletico Madrid and 7 things I took away from that transfer. Now, it's obviously been talked about a lot, and there's some positives about it and some scrutiny from it, so let's get into it. The first thing about this transfer is it's obviously one of the most expensive transfers of all time. Depending on the source you're looking at, it's either the third most expensive, fourth, or fifth most expensive. Some places are using the transfer fee, some places are not including bonuses. It doesn't really matter. It is one of the most expensive transfers of all time, and obviously the second or third most expensive teenager of all time, depending on the source. Obviously, João Félix is an incredible talent, and with the reported fee being around 126 million euros, which that does include bonuses in it, a lot will be expected of him, and that leads to the second thing about this transfer is the scrutiny of this price. People are thinking, what? 126 million euros? That's way too much. And they're probably right. That is a lot of money, especially for a kid who's 19. But transfers like these will continue to get lots of scrutiny, and this won't be the last time we see a transfer for a young kid that goes for 100 plus million. I'm sure it will happen again in the future, and I'm surprised De Ligt isn't going to have a price like this, as it seems like Ajax is okay for selling him for around 75 million euros. Now, this leads to point 3, where if you want to stay in the game, you have to play the game. And this game is about spending money on transfers. Now, if you want to be competing for the top trophies, you have to spend the money. And to spend the money, you either have to be an oil-rich club or one of the best clubs in the world. So that's going to be tough for a team like Atletico Madrid. So the other option is to sell players and use that money to reinvest into the squad to make it better. And in this case, Atletico Madrid have been having to do that. They've been kind of forced their hand because of the release clauses of three players actually, Griezmann, Rodri, and Lucas Hernandez. But nevertheless, it doesn't change the fact that they have to change the team, rebuild it a little, and hopefully in the long term make it better. We've seen things like this with Liverpool, where in the past they have just not been able to sign the top players, or they haven't been able to compete with the big teams in England or in Europe for a long time. But then recently they were able to sign Van Dijk, and then they also were able to sell Philippe Coutinho for one of the most expensive transfers of all time to Barcelona, which did lead them to have an incredible summer where they brought in a lot of players, and that included Alisson, who is one of the best goalies in the world. And a lot of those transfers, because of Coutinho and because of the selling they do, did lead them to rebuild their team and be able to compete for the Premier League and win the Champions League. Let's not say that Atletico Madrid is a second-rate club. They have been one of the best clubs in the past decade. Unfortunately, they don't have the financial muscle quite yet like the top teams. Now, the fourth thing about this is that the similarities with the Mbappe transfer from a few years ago. People are talking about the price of João Félix, but the same thing was happening with Mbappe when he was making his move to PSG, or when he was rumored to be going to Real Madrid. It was an incredible price for 18, I believe. I think he was 18 back then, but it was an incredible price, like 180 million euros or something. Obviously, a lot of people were talking about the price, but in the end, it didn't matter. The dude was a legit talent and was able to score the goals PSG wanted, won the World Cup, and people don't even talk about his transfer unless if they're comparing new transfers that go for crazy sums like João Félix. Now, obviously, João Félix didn't have as good of a season as Mbappe did before his transfer, but it wasn't too far off, and again, there's some similarities. Mbappe did score more goals, more assists in a little less minutes than João Félix in Ligue 1, and also the Champions League. But it's not like the Portuguese league is complete. Well, I guess it's not the best league in the world, but still, the dude did still help his team win the title like Mbappe did with Monaco. And it's not like he hasn't done anything in Europe. He's the youngest ever scorer of a hat-trick in the Europa League in history. While I'm not saying João Félix is on Mbappe's level, he's probably a little below, but Then again, who knows? Like, this kid is scoring more goals than Messi and Ronaldo did at this age. So really, it depends on how he does with Atletico Madrid, and that's the only thing that matters. The fifth thing of this 7-part list is, well, the number 7. So João Félix will be given the number 7 shirt, and on Atletico's website, they did talk about legends who wore the number 7 shirt, and they included guys like Ufarte, Diego Forlan, and Manolo. Noticeable omission of Antoine Griezmann, and kind of understandable why. Some people are saying that's a bit petty. Looking at this small club mentality, yeah, some people saying it's petty. Some people are laughing about it. Is Griezmann a Falco legend? I don't think so. I think players who were part of the campaign where they won the league and made the Champions League final were legends of the club, but I don't think Griezmann has put himself in the light to be recognized as a legend at the club, which I don't think is that crazy to say. Moving on to the second last thing about this transfer is that, well, it's number 7, part 2. He has a 7-year contract given to him, which is incredible. You don't really see that given to players too often. I know you see Spurs give 6-year contracts, but usually it's 4 or 5-year contracts. But a 7-year contract does show the intent of this guy wanting to prove himself for Atletico Madrid and the faith Atletico Madrid have in this player. Now, I've read in some places that he has the largest release clause. I don't know how true that is. I assume Atletico Madrid have given him a huge release clause just to make sure that he never leaves the club during this time frame, or at least he doesn't leave in a surprising way like players this summer have. But it does show that this guy believes in this team's project, and well, hopefully things go well for him and the club. Because, a La Liga season where there's a good Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid means that's going to be an exciting season. So hopefully Atletico Madrid don't take too far of a step back this season. But if not, the future years should be fine, I believe. Now, the last thing I want to talk about to finish the 7 things about João Félix is, will these big transfers for prospects keep happening? I kind of alluded it towards the beginning of this video, but as long as the game is going to have a lot of money, a lot of sponsors, and a lot of viewers, of course this is going to keep happening. People are talking about, when will the bubble burst? Maybe when some controversy happens. Like, it would take a pretty huge scandal for this bubble to burst. Like, FIFA went through this huge scandal. People still watch the FIFA World Cup. These transfers will continue to happen. People will keep being surprised, but these transfers will happen. I think it's going to be a lot more ridiculous than this one, because this kid is a huge talent. Don't get me wrong, he's absolutely brilliant, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's teams that would pay $100 million for prospects in a similar level or even less level compared to this guy, which I don't know who that would be, but it wouldn't surprise me. And whenever it's for players that could be the next big thing, clubs are going to want to spend money on that. There's so many clubs interested in João Félix. They didn't want to pay the $120 million release clause, but some clubs were willing to pay close to that or paid in installments. We saw clubs like Manchester City. They would be willing to loan back João Félix, but they weren't willing to pay the $120 million release clause, but they were willing to pay a significant amount. I believe Juventus were quite interested in him as well, and many other teams, I assume. This kid has had a lot of suitors. It's only a half season he's played, but the talent he has shown in this short amount of time, not many kids have done that. Maybe it's only a one-season wonder, but I don't think a club like Atletico Madrid would be stupid enough to spend this much money on a player just for him to flop. So overall, yeah, I do think these transfers will keep happening. It's going to keep going up and up and up. As long as money is getting poured into the game, inflation keeps going up, so transfers will keep going up. People will continue to be shocked by these transfers, but I don't think there's much to be shocked by. Alright, so that's 7 things about this João Félix transfer. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you agree with me, let me know what you agree with me. If you don't, let me know as well. And yeah, thank you for watching the video. And yeah, hope all of you have a great day. Take care.